Looking forward to getting back on the practice field this morning and had a good practice. It's an interesting time of year. You're trying to balance, getting enough work, but also trying to get your guys rested as much as possible and take care of them as much as you can physically, and I think honestly mentally as much as anything else. Our schedule's a little bit unique. We had an open week, really after week 2, so we've played a bunch of games in a row. And I think, this is always the time of the year you start to get a little bit concerned about, physical fatigue and mental fatigue and trying to figure out how to balance that. And so we let our guys sleep in a little bit more kind of this week than we have in the past, and we'll continue to do that moving forward, which I think is, good. It's a good cumulative effect of 30 minutes of extra sleep, and, hopefully that adds up. Hopefully they'll go to bed at the same time and you get 2 more hours of sleep during the week, and with the time change moving back, hopefully the guys got another extra hour of sleep, and all that stuff is important and adds up. And so we're kind of at that point of the year where that's, a conversation daily that we're having. What's too much work, what's not enough, and what's, we gotta make sure we keep our physical presence and our physical edge. I think it's been a really important part of some success that we've had this year, has just been that. And but we're at that time of the year where all those things are concerns, and but again, guys had a great practice today. I felt like they were refreshed, and guys are excited to practice and looking forward to to playing a big game Saturday. So excited about it.
Coach, do you have a status update on Quincy Johnson?
Yeah, he didn't practice today. I think it's just more kind of, trying to get him enough rest. I think that we felt good going into last week. I mean, quite frankly, I think I said this, but I was surprised that he didn't feel better. But at the same time, I have complete 100% trust in Quentin and the way he feels, and I know that he's wants to play. At the same time, we're going to always do what's best for Quentin, and certainly long term. So I would anticipate him practicing tomorrow. I think that's been the plan all week, was to give him a couple days off and let him get healed up a little bit, and then we'll go see what he can do tomorrow. And our hope is, he'll be fine tomorrow, and he'll kind of proceed from there.
Looked like he was trying to talk you into playing a little bit Saturday, was he, during the game?
Yeah, we had some conversations about it, and I think the biggest thing, like I said, is that's a hard job as a coach. Sometimes your players want to play, and your job is to, protect him from himself in some ways. I think that's, everybody involved in a football program is competitive by nature, otherwise you just don't survive. And so I think as coaches, sometimes we all, we gotta do a good job of protecting ourselves from ourselves, and sometimes you gotta protect the players from themselves, and that's part of, part of the big picture things that we have to do as coaches, is to try to make those decisions that we think is best for, long term as opposed to short term.
You talked over after the win about learning how to play with Tarkin.
Yeah.
But you guys are the underdogs. Is that a position underdog this week?
Yeah, I don't even know if our guys know that. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know how many games we've been the underdog in this year. I'm assuming it's happened before. I think it has a couple of times, but yeah, I don't think our guys pay much attention to that. I mean, I think like anything else, we were the underdog in a bunch of games preseason because we were picked 7th or 8th. You know what I mean? So we were going to be an underdog in about probably 9 of the 12, just from a expectation standpoint. So I think the guys have paid attention to stuff that we can control, and that's the way we practice and play, and our effort certainly in the game, and trying to perform and execute and all that. I do think that there's always extra motivation, when you play against a big brand team, whether it's Oklahoma, whether it's Texas, whether it's whomever. They got a lot of Twitter followers and TikTok followers and all that, and our guys are aware of that. And so, it's just the way it is.
You've also got the factor of Gary Carson being on the other side, even though I know he's not on the
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
How much of an impact does that have on this game with him, so much knowledge of this game?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Gary's role is there. I mean, what I'm saying? I just, it's hard for me to evaluate that. I mean, I know Gary's a very good coach. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I know he obviously, knows our players. So I don't know, I mean, I don't have any idea how that's gonna affect the game.
And just going off of that, he used to have this pyramid like right there
Yeah.
that you fill it up in purple. And, sometimes it could be discouraging, like walking past that and not
Yeah.
having it all filled up. You said something unique last week where, you didn't have any goals at the beginning of the season. Can you just kind of expand on that and what the
Yeah,
philosophy
yeah, I
is?
think, I just think that you gotta be careful, cause what you can do, whether you intend to do it or not, I think sometimes you can, kind of set a ceiling on your program, if you're not careful. And at the same time, part of, I think, any success that you're gonna have with young people is by being honest with them and brutally honest with them, and I think that they appreciate that, and I've said this before, but I mean, I can remember, coaching teams where, where we had conversation with those players and it was like, look, we need to try to win a game, you know what I mean, just one game. And so, because that's where we were as a program, and I think that for me, coming here, the program had obviously had some success in the past, and, we knew that there was some talent here because we played against TCU and we were at the previous school. And so there was, a little bit more of an understanding maybe of what we had. And then, the transfer portal allows you to kind of fill in gaps where sometimes in the past it might take a year or two, maybe 3 years. Now you can address things a little bit more quickly. And so, and then you gotta sit back and see how the pieces come together. So for us, I mean, we felt like we had a chance to have a good team. I hadn't coached in the Big 12 in a long time. It's a different league than it was. And the last time I was in the league, Nebraska and Colorado and Texas A&M were in the league. So that tells you how long ago it was. And so, we didn't really know what we were capable of. And we told our players that, but we said, look, we think we have a chance to be pretty good. And let's just take it one game at a time and not say, let's try to get to a bowl game and that's as good as it's gonna get, cause we didn't know. And so, I think in some ways, we might have exceeded expectations up to this point externally. I don't know that we have internally. I don't know that anybody's really that surprised. And it's like anything else. I mean, you have to be fortunate to get on a run. I mean, you have to have some breaks and, now again, you could argue, do those happen or do you create them? I don't know. I mean, somebody someday will figure that out, I guess. Some physicist or numbers guy or math guy or somebody. But, I think that, I just always believe that let's just roll out there every Saturday and do our best and see where that takes us, and then we'll reevaluate that. And I think, we're kind of at that point now where, our expectations are probably, or our goals are probably higher than they would have been initially. And so I think that it served us well up to this point, so why change?
They've started fans in
Yeah,
several
for sure.
games, obviously. And it looks as if they've shown different looks offensively.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for all the stuff that you've seen?
Yeah, we've kind of seen that. I mean, that's been a pretty common thread for us, is it really started probably as much in the Oklahoma State game where we saw a lot of things different early, then carried over to Kansas State. Obviously, they had a quarterback change at Kansas State, so it was a little bit different than what we anticipated. A little less quarterback run, a little bit more passing game, and some runs that were different. So, what Texas has done a good job of is scheming people up early in games and making some big plays and creating some good matchups and executing, at a high level and figuring out ways to get their best players the football. And so what we have to do is like anything else, we've got to, keep the ball in front of us and tackle. That's going to be really, really important, is tackling well and not just one guy, but 2, 3, 4, 5 guys run into the football because they've got good enough skill to where they can either make you miss or, they can run through you. And so when you face those kind of people, running to the ball, it's always important, but it becomes even more important. Just because there's going to be times you have to rally to the football. And so Texas has done a nice job doing that, and that's kind of been a little bit of a challenge for us. So that's certainly an area that we need to improve in. And challenge for us.
Coach, speaking of your end about starting fast, are there some things you can do to be intentional during the week or are doing to?
Yeah, I mean, we do it all the time. I mean, it's like if you watch us practice, every single day we go a team period, period one of practice, and it's really for that very intention to get guys to understand, hey, look, we got to come out ready and focused and execute at a high level early. And so, that's something that we do all the time year round, and we've gotten off to pretty good starts, but then it seems like that we've faded a little bit after getting off to a good start. So we just have to play better, in the first half of the game. I think it's just gonna be important for us to do moving forward, and we've been fortunate to be able to survive some slow starts, but it's gonna get harder and harder to do that.
Trae Tomlinson has forced a turnover in 3 straight games. I guess,
Yeah.
what have you kind of been seeing from him recently?
Yeah, I think he's just playing really good football. I mean, he started a little slow. He missed most of fall camp. It probably took him a month to kind of get to where he needed to be and where he wanted to be. And I think since then he's played like we expected him to play, and he's got a lot of confidence. He's very competitive. I think that's the thing about him. Those two things more than anything else. And I think those are probably when you sit down and you say, okay, what is a cornerback? What are the characteristics of a cornerback? And you got to have, it begins with competitiveness, and then you got to be confident, and then you got to, be physical, and he's done that. And then you've got to, be able to change directions, which again he can do physically. And so, you sit down and you look at it all. I mean, everybody knows Trey's not the tallest guy in the world, but he does such a good job early in routes of getting his body on defenders, where I think that helps him negate size advantage sometimes. And then again, he's just incredibly competitive and fights hard for those balls and never wants to give anybody a catch. And he's confident. If he gives up a play, he realizes, hey, look, I'm going to get another opportunity, and I'm going to make the play next time. And he's got a short memory, and I think that's important for that position.
Coach, with D not playing in the first half, is it likely going to be Shad getting that start?
It'll be Shad, and then we can, bounce some guys around if we need to. And thought our linebackers really played well last week, and thought Shad really played well for a guy that's fairly limited in his reps at that position. Thought he really played well, and I mean, Shad's a really outstanding athlete. He's still learning how to play that position, but I really liked what I saw last week. I think he did a good job of playing with discipline, and that's a hard position to play. You've got to obviously play physical, but you also got to be able to cover people, and you got to be able to zone drop, and you got to be able to blitz, and you got to play physical and tackle, and all these different things. And it takes a lot of different skills to play linebacker. And I thought again, Shad has adjusted really well to that position, despite some inexperience.
Have you ever had a 250-pound return guy on kickoff return?
No, I never have. I remember talking to Mike Stoops when I was at Arizona about putting Rob Gronkowski back there, and he said, if you put him back there, you're going to get fired. So I didn't put him back there.
How much? Tay Barber seems like he's a guy that doesn't get as much attention as some of the other receivers. But
Yeah.
Really valuable to the team. I mean, obviously, leading receiver last week, and he's made some big plays in other games. Just
Yeah, he
talk about
has.
the importance of him to your
Yeah,
team.
Tate's just a really mature guy. It's funny, he and Darius are kind of cut from the same cloth. They're both not the biggest guys in the world, but they're both really good football players, and they're both really tough, really competitive. Tay is a guy that is incredibly consistent. I think that everybody, and in particular our quarterbacks, really have an appreciation for him because they know where he's going to be play after play. He's always where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. He's just a model of consistency. He makes plays when he has opportunities to. He's got a really kind of unique skill set. He can do a lot of things well. And he's just a really good football player. And I think that, he's one of those guys that the farther you get into a season, the more you realize how valuable he is. He just can do so many different things for you, and does a great job on special teams and all the different things for us.
How much of an impact is it on and off the field if Quincy Johnson can play this week? What's he?
Yeah, it's big. Yeah, it's always big. I mean, look, Quinton's kind of our go-to guy, and so when we didn't have him last week, I think going into the game we felt like we would, and we felt like that was going to be a good matchup for us, and so we had a pretty heavy game plan, for him, and all of a sudden he's not in the game, and so a good bit of kind of what you planned for all of a sudden it's not there. And so, you know, we've got guys obviously that can step up. You know, I thought Blair Conright really did a great job last week, but Quentin's just such a physical presence and you know, he gets a lot of attention, because he should. I mean, and, you know, he's capable of making big plays, and so when he's not there, it obviously hurts us, and, you know, our hope is that he's there this week, and, you know, I think we'll hopefully, you know, plan a little bit more for the, you know, for the reality that he may not be there, but at the same time, our hope is that he is.
What's his impact as a leader, as one of your team captains? How have you observed his leadership?
Yeah, I think Quentin's got a lot of confidence, and I think he brings that to the table. I mean, again, kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier. You know, just a really unselfish guy that shows up every day and works really hard. You know, he's a guy that has a lot of talent. And I think everybody in our program appreciates the fact that it's never about him. You know, he could be one of those guys that says, hey, look at me, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, and it's more of we and us and, you know, what can I do to help the team than it is, hey, look at me. And again, that's why I truly believe that's why, you know, this team has probably exceeded expectations, because of a lot of guys like that, you know, that are good players in leadership roles, because, you know, not everybody's like that.
Have you noticed? Have you noticed a big difference in the Texas offense with Quinn Ewers being quarterback compared to when Hudson was playing?
Oh, I think that yeah. I mean, I think things like that always change depending on who the quarterback is, just because every quarterback has different strengths and weaknesses and things that they're comfortable with. You know, and Quinn's, you know, got a really good skill set. You know, I think, you know, he's got a big arm and can make all those throws, and so, you know, I think there's a tendency when you do that to scheme some plays a little bit more down the field, and you know, again, stuff that he's just comfortable throwing. So I don't know that it's as much for, you know, there's a difference in our offense when Chandler was our quarterback and then when Max was our quarterback, just because they bring different things to the table, and I think that's just kind of the nature of that position. But, you know, I mean, Quinn Ewers is certainly not one of those guys that you say, well, we can't run these plays because you can't make these throws. You know what I mean? So the playbook is going to be fully open and available when he's your